Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to be talking about why stillness feels so unsafe when you have relationship anxiety. And this episode is going to be for you if you tend to get worried about the vibe feeling kind of off when there's zero reason for you to be worried, or maybe the texting or the communication has gone down and it's not as talkative as it used to be, or if you tend to get a little unsettled, let's call it, or you feel worried because the relationship isn't moving, bunny ears quotations, as fast as you'd like it. And while I totally understand all of those, there's a really big impact with those, because instead of moving your relationship towards feeling more stable, more safe, and more secure, we totally end up self-sabotaging a really good thing. And it's something that with this topic particularly, it comes up a lot in my community, the Healing Girl Gang, especially around the holidays, which are coming up. This episode's dropping the beginning of November, and there's lots of holidays that are upcoming, and stillness can really kind of activate us in this time period. So one of the things that I love about the Healing Girl Gang is I teach you the repetitions that help you to retain the safety, the felt sense of safety inside. So really excited about that for this episode and in the community. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach, and I love helping high achieving girlies who are, maybe you're crushing it in your career, you're climbing the corporate ladder, you got that 401k on lock, things like that. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur where you have maybe real estate investments, or you have an online business that's really successful. Or maybe you're an academic where you have some letters behind your name, Esquire, RN, MD. And while you are crushing it at achieving in your career, you are also crushed with anxiety when it comes to overthinking, or feeling like you make up fake scenarios, or maybe you just know that you make up fake scenarios. And all of those are, if you're all of those or any of those, you're in the right spot, and really love that you're here. So let's kind of dive in. And I also like to start with a little celebration, because I was thinking about this new one-on-one client. His name is R. I know I said he. And that's also something that I think I just want to be very clear on, is that my teaching and how I actually approach relationship is very inclusive. It is inclusive. I would even say that my approach is queer, because there's a lot around the relationship, around the man does it this way, the woman does it this way. And when we break it down to how relationships actually work, it's not about gender roles. It's actually about understanding these qualities inside you that a lot of times society will assign as a masculine quality, a feminine quality. And I think that's just a bunch of BS. And it's actually not helping your relationship. And if that doesn't jive with you, then that's totally fine. There's other people out there that talk about all about gender roles, and you can go over there. But that's definitely not the route that I teach. It's very inclusive. And I'm bringing that up because this client, he is definitely an anxious. He would laugh. In fact, this week we had a coaching session. He's like, I know most of your people are women, and I also just want to say, well, you're perfect proof that this is not a gender specific thing. And he is in a hetero cis relationship, and he is actually the one that is a bit more anxious. And I just think it's so powerful when not just men, but anybody steps into understanding themselves more deeply, understanding your deeper conditioning, which our systems do contribute to. So I am just so proud of him for stepping into work like this, because a lot of times this type of introspection, this deeper work, is often what perceived as the woman's job. Like, we should be the ones to do the emotional labor. And it is very feminist, honestly, to be the one that is seeing that we're all equal. So love that for him. And he's doing so great, having some big awarenesses. And you're doing so great, honey. So proud of you. So other things that I think are important to mention, which is totally tied into today's episode around stillness and feeling safe, is if you've seen on my stories, I've been talking about, I have a huge ass fibroid, fibroids plural, because they typically, I hear they come as a group. And one thing that I have definitely realized is that a couple years ago, I had an explant, which means that my breast implants, I yeeted them out, just like I'm going to yeet out these fibroids. And I was thinking about this because I was like, wow, okay, this feels familiar that I'm having a procedure around the fall and around October, November. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I had this huge procedure, which was such a big deal. And it totally took me out. And it was a huge lesson to face what I had been ignoring, denying, and really get clear on how I want to care about myself, how I receive care. And the biggest lesson around that was learning how to be still. The surgery was so intense when I got them out. You'd think that that would be easier than actually getting them in. I would argue that getting them in was 10 times easier than getting them out. And it was a huge lesson on so many levels when it came to my relationship, my marriage, and most importantly, my relationship with myself. And what is tied so deeply with this episode is I did not realize how unsafe it felt to rest. And the reason why I didn't realize how unsafe it was to rest was because I had no choice but to rest. And it was because my body didn't truly recognize what rest felt like and what rest should be like because of fear. And one of the things that I had to uncover in that whole process in my body, and not just in my body, but my relationship with my body and in my relationship itself, was how we are wired for fear. And learning how to rewire feels even more scary when we rewire ourselves to feel safe. When we rewire ourselves to feel secure, that happens on all levels, and it shows up in our romantic relationship. And for me, it was like a big punch in the stomach in the chest, I guess, around how do I rewire myself on an even deeper level to feel more safe. And the irony is that it felt scary. Truth be told, it felt really, really scary. And I am so grateful for that experience when I had my explant for this fibroid journey that I'm coming up against. And I feel honestly so relieved because all of these symptoms that I had been feeling and quite honestly ignoring and really kind of minimizing, it's not that big a deal. That should be normal. And honestly, just taking it on a deeper level around, this is just, maybe my body's just kind of wacko and doing it and acting a certain way or doing certain things because it's just how it rolls. And I will tell you, it's not normal. So I have more updates to that. I think I'm surprised there's not more people talking about fibroids. And I think there are a lot of symptoms that I just thought were normal or came with PMS that were absolutely not normal. So if you have a fibroid journey, please DM me. Or if you want to hear more about it or you're experiencing some symptoms in your body, I'm happy to talk more about it. So that being said, I think this is a great way to share why stillness felt so unsafe when I had relationship anxiety, and also just on a deeper level, why stillness itself can feel so unsafe. And I think it's important to unpack this with a belief that I just really had to unlearn essentially. And that was really believing that I had to work or to earn or to do things to be loved and to get love and to get safety and to get appreciation and to fit in. And the belief that I really had to work with in that was just training myself. I said earlier, like retraining myself to feel more safe and retraining my body, my mind, my emotions to accept that. And that was really kind of learning on a basic level that stillness and understanding that stillness is a skill set. Okay. And a lot of that for me was because stillness in my early development was unsafe, that there was a lot as a first generation child of an immigrant that a lot of my value in the house that I took on was to clean. It was even told to my face that it was doing school, being a good student, doing school, being a good student was just what my job literally told to my face, that that was my contribution to the family was to be a good student. And not just that, but also like my actual labor, like my actual physical labor was an addition, was necessary in the household. And I also can say that Craig has something similar, my husband, and even though mine was more externally told to my face, his was more internally, it was more implied that him being a good student or contributing or doing chores was more, he took that on internally. So I just want to say that these can show up in different ways. For mine was more external. And for some of you, this might just be more implied that you just get good grades, period. There is no talking about it. That's just kind of what your family does. In fact, I've heard clients tell me that. So the first kind of layer was understanding. And I want you to take on and really hear that stillness is a skill. If you have any relation, if you can relate to any of that, then really learning how to be still, how to not be doing chores or going to the gym or reading even. I used to read books to enhance my intelligence. And I'm not saying don't read. That's not the message. But recently, especially in the past couple of years, I've had to learn to read for pleasure. Like I want to read fairies banging because fantasy books, because I really took on that the only way that I could be better or be safe was to constantly be learning. And again, I'm not saying to not constantly learn. I believe in that wholeheartedly, but we also need to learn how to play. So, first kind of belief was like understanding that stillness is a skill, and that just wasn't innate for me. That wasn't taught to me. It wasn't valued. So I had to really, especially, this is something that I do on a regular basis. I practice being still. My mornings, don't F around with my mornings. I practice stillness, and it is something that is, I can really tell you from just the bottom of my heart, it's something that I incorporate and make part of my life because it is how I feel safe and secure within myself. And another kind of layer to this is this old pattern of how I chose to show up, and how I chose differently was everything being, I guess, how do I want to say this? The old pattern that I had to choose differently was talking to myself differently and feeling things differently, where again, like even with a fibroid, everything's fine, like I'm fine, nothing's wrong, and I don't have needs. And I again, this is something that I hear within myself and I work with clients, where we tell ourselves that everything's fine, I'm fine, I don't have needs, because really the reality boils down to having needs was something that was not important in your development. I was telling the story a lot this week, which is why I'm making this episode kind of around it, where I learned that I couldn't just go to my family if something was hurt. So I had an experience where, and this was like my childhood experience, where I was around a lot of adults a good portion of the time, and I had to kind of fend for myself. I was left to my own devices a lot, and if I had a boo boo, I don't say that word often. I had a boo boo. I had a like a scrape or something, and I would go to the adults and I would kind of interrupt their conversation. I'd be like, oh, like, look at my finger, it's hurt. And my uncle, and this was like funny at the time, and it's still, I can see the humor of it, but it taught me something so deeply, where I would show them my boo-boo, the scrape on my finger, and he would joke and say, okay, well, oh, let me look at it, let's cut it off. And it was all fun and jokes, but what I took on was that, oh, if something is wrong with me, I can't just go to them. I have to deal with this on my own. I got to like figure out how to deal with this boo-boo. And so while there was no harm in that, that wasn't the intention, but I took on the story, the narrative that I took on, the thing that I would tell myself was, okay, like I can't have needs. Like I can't just tell somebody that I have something that hurts or look at this. I really took on that I had to figure it out on my own. And in that, it made it really hard to receive my ability to receive love, my ability to accept it when Craig or partners would give me love, I was like, whoa, no, that's like, whoa, I can't receive that. That is like too weird. And if you can think about what that was wiring me for, what that set me up for, not being able to receive, then yeah, safe partners would come into my life, really giving, caring, loving partners. And I was like, whoa, they are trying to give me my needs. That is weird, because I had learned and took on at a very young age that that wasn't okay. Like I should be able to take care of my own needs. And as you can see, that is really problematic when it comes to finding and actually being in a safe relationship and your receptors are kind of off, right? So the change and the small change that I made in this whole piece around stillness feeling unsafe that really had a huge impact was recognizing on a deep level that stillness isn't the thing that is making me feel unsafe. So, for example, when I was going through my explant journey and got the surgery, I was really struggling with, and I mean, it was, I can't even, I could not believe how intense the surgery was. Like, basically, they burn the inside of your chest to get all of the particles left over from your implants out. And it was so interesting because I had to really reframe and retrain myself on all the different levels, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that I am actually okay being still. I'm okay being still. I'm okay. I need this. My body needs this. I need this. And it was so powerful to watch. And even though I was hitting a rock bottom, that the stillness was really key. I had to experience stillness to step into safety, to create that safety inside myself. And when I started to really take that on and accept that, okay, I get to be still, I get to take time off of work, I get to let my partner take care of me. It was so important. And I could notice just on a deep level that I was changing a bit of my history. I was changing a bit of how I was able to receive love. And not only that, but Craig, my partner, stepped up in such a freaking big way. He was making meals. He was sleeping on the couch next to me. He was putting on my freaking socks. I couldn't even really bend over and bend my arms to put my socks on. And it was such a powerful exercise of allowing myself to not just be still, because stillness was so important for me to receive the love that I actually desperately wanted. But because I could not be still, because I felt like I had to be functioning and doing and being active all the time, and to be a good partner, I have to be like on my own. It was such a big level in myself and in my relationship to actually be able to train myself to receive. And even though that surgery, I'm not gonna lie, was really hard, I'm so grateful it gave me that opportunity to receive. And I can see on such a deep level how a lot of how my body is experiencing healing in different ways with now these fibroids, that it's kind of, in yoga there's a word where it's called samaskara, and basically it talks about how you hit your head against the same wall, right? You're kind of banging your head against the same wall. And it is this, as you go through life, part of your dharma, the thing that you're here to learn is that, oh, we are coming up against the same thing again and again and again. And it's also part of how we ascend into a light enlightenment, where we have to learn the lesson that is in front of us, and we might have to bang our head against it again and again. And so for me, this deep ability to learn stillness to feel safe when before stillness felt very unsafe meant coming up against it again and again with this form of an explant surgery, now in the form of a fibroid surgery. And I'm so grateful for this experience. I know that sounds so wacky, but I'm even though right now in this moment, I still am waiting to get an MRI so we can see how bad and how invasive whatever procedure needs to happen. I actually feel really good. I can really truly say that in the stillness, in the unknown, because I just trust myself. I know that I have gone through really hard things and I will continue to experience the growth and the evolution of those. And I feel really good. So, and one of the potentialities on the table is like, we might have to say goodbye to my uterus, which is I will get there when we get there. We don't even know. And I can truly, I hope you feel from me that I trust all the outcomes. I trust whatever needs to happen. And I am just, I'm so proud of myself because that is not how I would have handled this 5-10 years ago. I'd be freaking the hell out. And I can tell you that is just not the place that I'm at today. I feel really good. I trust. So that being said, let's go into some trust and let's talk about some of the questions that are in the Healing Girl Gang. And that when I think about what the power of the Healing Girl Gang is I really teach you step by step, month by month, how to trust yourself, how to feel safe when there's stillness. And the power of that is that when you learn how to trust that, when you learn how to be okay in the stillness, when things appear to feel unsafe, when it's still, you will be able to be unfuckwithable. Like, that doesn't matter. It won't matter what happens or doesn't happen, or they don't text back, or you're not moving in together yet. All of that will just melt away when you learn how to feel safe inside yourself. So that's really cool about the Healing Girl Gang. And we're going to answer a question in the Q&A hotline that is inside the Healing Girl Gang. So besides the master classes, so this upcoming month is all about how to get your needs met without chasing or feeling needy. Besides the masterclass training on that, besides the implementation days where I literally teach you the tangible steps how to do it with an action taker toolkit, where there's worksheets, tangible things you can walk through, process, overthinking detox. I mean, there's I make it like foolproof, truthfully, to experience. This is not just like a bunch of prompts or journal prompts. Like, this is literally teaching you how to experience feeling safe in your body. So that being said, let's hit the hotline. Rennie, who came in the training, so good to see you, sweetheart. So glad you're here. Her question is, I never recognized my anxious attachment style until recently. Not uncommon, and I'll tell you why. Perhaps because I am trying not to totally F up my current relationship. I think back on the one other past relationship that meant so much to me and how it ended. Seeing it in retrospect wow, words salad. Seeing it in retrospect as a result of me playing it cool until the extreme plot twist where my hair literally caught on fire and I punched through a window and ended up in the hospital with 12 stitches. Except for that tragic situation and my current relationship, I've generally chosen men who are quote unquote safe, meaning I choose relationships that I don't mind if they have a future. It doesn't matter to me. Yikes. Now I'm 36 and ready to settle down and create a family of my own, and I am with my favorite person, an ideal candidate to do this with. My boyfriend of 2.5 years loves me, but I can see and understand his fear. I have been spiraling on and off for a few years. He and I can recognize the cycle and both want to know how we get out. So I love this question, Rennie, and you are already doing like a first most important step, which is awareness. As a yogi, she's a yoga teacher. You know how important body awareness is. Like, wow. So on a physical level, we can see how important body awareness is. If you go to the gym and you feel your squats and your bicep, something's off, right? So awareness is a first step to shifting and changing. If you're doing a hamstring, if you're doing the splits, you're doing Hanumanasana, and you feel that in your shoulders, I'm not saying you can't do some shoulder work in Hanumanasana, but that's another topic. Then, you should really be feeling that in your hips. Something's kind of off. So first step is awareness. And then the second is doing a different action that is going to produce a different result. And one of the things you've done is saying yes to the Healing Girl Gang. So if I feel Hanumanasana in my shoulders, what is going on with my legs? Like, let's realign something here to do something different. So I first want to say, and I think this is related to why maybe we try different actions, right? We have an awareness like something is wrong, meaning I shouldn't be this anxious with this good person, right? And so maybe one of the actions you do is to journal it out. You go on hot girl walks. You're like, my body's dysregulated, right? You're doing all the things. And I find this a lot with highly self-aware individuals where they kind of know that there are some actions to do and they might do them differently. You're like, I'm going to communicate differently, but somehow you are still, nothing's changing, right? You're still feeling like shit. You feel anxious. You feel like your needs are not getting met. So there's a different level of awareness. And so I'll just relate this to yoga because you're a yogi and some of you also maybe do yoga, where there's a movement in a forward fold, right? And I'm going to get kind of like into the weeds here with yoga. It's called inner spiral. Your inner thighs move in, back, and apart. And for years, I've heard these cues, right? My yoga teacher, who I invested thousands of dollars with, would say in, back, and apart, in, back, and apart. Inner thighs go in, back, apart. And I thought I had been practicing that. Okay, I thought I had been practicing that. And then one day I'm in the same old class, same old instructions, and I go, okay, inner thighs in, back, and apart. And then I felt it. I felt my thighs, even though I was looking at them for years, telling them to do that, something kind of clicked. I heard something clicked and I was like, whoa, thighs in, back, and apart. And it just, I heard it differently. And so I say that because this is something that I notice, like when women come into the Healing Girl Gang, they come into one-on-one coaching and they're like, oh, wow, I've heard that for years and something clicked. It's not necessarily because the cue or the instruction was off. It's also like what I realized in that experience was that it was the context. It was all of the actions in the same old class that I had been doing that something in how she said it, my teacher said it, clicked. And that's often what I find when people come into my world. They've been doing things that they've heard from different mentors or podcasts or whatever. And I'm not saying that those cues are, or what you've done is bad, but maybe it's more of the context of how it's laid out for you. It's the process. It's the setup. I would even say that in my yoga class, in, back, and apart, there was probably something in that sequence, the sequence of how she taught it that day that just freaking clicked. And I like to see myself as a sequence expert, a patterns expert. So it's not that regulating your system, your nervous system is bad. Of course, that's great. It's not that going on a walk outside in sunshine is bad. Of course, that's great. But it's really about the sequence of how you do things. I've noticed that makes a huge difference. So when you're asking the question where, okay, I recognized my attachment style until recently, a lot of times we are doing these things like you're a yogi, right? You're doing yoga. That's good. And it's not even what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And when you're saying my boyfriend of 2.5 years loves me, but I can see and understand his fear, and we've been spiraling on and off for a few years, I also notice that sometimes there's a threshold where what you've done has worked and it's gotten to you to a point until it's not working anymore. And the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and expect a different result. And for women that are highly intelligent, have some emotional intelligence, are highly self-aware, a lot of kind of these basic things that you do, while good and have gotten you somewhere, are not working anymore. And so what I've noticed is that which is makes the Healing Girl Gang and how I work with clients so unique, is that it is experiencing on a different level. It's truly, how do you experience self-trust? How do you cultivate self-soothing within yourself, and how are all the systems firing and how are they talking to each other that make a big difference? And the great news is you're in the Healing Girl Gang. we're taking the cruise ship approach. Like this month is going to be in November about how do you get your needs met without feeling clingy or being needy or chasing. Next month is about distance. How do you navigate emotional or physical distance or feeling like they're being distant? And it's so on and so on. So all these kind of major nuances in anxious attachment, we're going to hit them. So you're along for the ride. And if you want to go on along for the ride too, you can click the link below or send me a DM. Happy to tell you more. All right, angels, I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah.